I just happen to have some inside information. The day after her funeral, he was given that flash drive by Kimora Simmons. Todd started shopping them around. Combs has asked for a gag order to get him to stop talking. It sold over $1.5 million, and he's trying to backpedal and not pay these guys. I understand 99% of the people that are watching this know the story, but not everybody does. So let me start by saying that Sean Diddy Combs was once with Kim Porter, and they ended up having several kids together. He ends up adopting her son from another marriage. She was married to a guy named Albie Shore. But at some point, Kim and Diddy break up. He still pays her, child support, helps support the family, everything. And she's got a house, the whole thing. So they're still in each other's lives. Let's put it that way. But she was with him for roughly 10 years. So on November 17th, 2023, a woman that Diddy had dated after Kim, Cassandra Ventura, she and Diddy had dated for a while, I think quite a long time. And then she ends up suing him. They break up and she ends up suing him by saying that he was abusive. He forced her into all kinds of horrific acts. And at that point, a bunch of other allegations come out. So everybody knows that. So she sues him. He, of course, vehemently denies everything, that all of it's a lie. None of it's true. This is absolute blackmail. And he immediately settles the case because there was no merit to it. Like the next day settles the case. I'm assuming at that point, her lawyer showed his lawyer the videotape he had of Diddy beating her up in a hotel room, thinking you have to settle.
Well, remember he said that the tape was altered, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, nobody's saying that Diddy's a decent human being. I really want to put that out there up front for this video, because even though people will watch this and be like, "Oh, wow, you're kind of, this is kind of helpful to him," but I'm not saying he's a decent human being. Anyway, he settles that lawsuit. A few months later, CNN gets a hold of the tape and releases it. Well, a whole bunch of other women start filing lawsuits. So there's tons of these allegations of forced acts upon them, multiple partners, and I genuinely believe that most of these are probably true, right? Like I'm assuming, because the fact is that if one person calls you, says you're an asshole, but if 50 people say you're an asshole, you're probably an asshole.
Oh man, that's bad. That's sad to hear.
Right? I mean, you got to start, you kind of got to sit back and say,
dang it, I messed up then.
All right. Now, March of 2024, I have a friend named Wade Williamson. Wade runs a YouTube channel called Crime and Entertainment. Wade interviews he interviews the mobster kind of guys, right? Great channel. I think he's got like 10,000 subscribers. It's growing. He gets, decent views. Good guy. I like Wade. Well, Wade had heard from someone about this guy named Courtney Burgess. And Wade reached out to his buddy who knew Courtney, and he had heard through the grapevine that Courtney worked with Tupac Shakur. I believe that Wade is a big fan of Tupac and hip hop. So he contacted his buddy. His buddy put him in contact with Courtney Burgess. And he was asking Burgess, "Hey, I'd love to have you come on the program." Burgess is a guy that claims to have, that he knew Tupac. They were good friends. Tupac's, I guess, one of his most, I guess, I don't know. I have a couple buddies who are like, this song apparently changed hip hop forever. Is it Hail Mary?
Oh yeah, Hail Mary. Yeah, Hail Mary. Yeah.
So if you talk to Courtney will tell you that he was the producer of Hail Mary, when in fact there's anywhere that says he was the producer of Hail Mary, but that's what he says. That's his claim to fame is Hail Mary, and that he also, if you ask him how he knows Tupac, he'll tell you, one, he did the beat on that. He was the producer of the song. And he also was friends with a group that Tupac worked with, which was called, they were called the Outlaws. So Courtney says that he represented and produced the Outlaws. Well, he did, but it was like 6 months after Tupac died. Courtney signed not the Outlaws, but actually a guy named, I think his name was Hussein. He signed Hussein to a deal that they put out an album. The album did not do well. That's his claim to fame, is that 6 months after Tupac's death, he represented somebody who was once in a room with Tupac.
Right.
So, so there's no real connection to Tupac there. All right. But Courtney and Wade are talking, but Wade doesn't know this. So Wade talks to Courtney and says, "Hey, Courtney, I'd love to have you on the program. Love to talk about Tupac." And Courtney, he checks out Wade's channel and he figures, hey, Wade's got a good channel. Wade can get me some publicity. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Listen, man," he said, "I have a flash drive, one flash drive." He tells Wade he's got one flash drive that contains Kim Porter's memoir, bits and pieces of a memoir that she was writing, right? Like her writings that was ultimately going to be a memoir. So she had a manuscript.
Right.
And now Courtney has tried to get this published before. So he's actually got a book that he put out that he gave to somebody, and they're selling the books out of like the back of their cars. It's not available for sale. It wasn't at the time available for sale on Amazon. He's basically got T-shirts and bumper stickers made up. This is what he told me, by the way. He tells Wade, and that they're selling the book out of the back of one of his buddy's cars. Right. And that's how they had tried to promote it. Neither one of them apparently could get it placed on Amazon for one reason or another. And it had died off. But when he talked to Wade, he said, "Wade, you might be able to get some eyes on this thing and help me get this book out there." He said, because, Diddy has recently had a lot of lawsuits and stuff against him. And I think that this may be a great opportunity for us to sell this memoir. So at that point, Wade actually contacted me and said, "Listen, this is what this guy's telling me." And I said, "Well, okay, is it the memoir? How did he get it?" Courtney told him that he said that a close friend of Kim Porter's had given him the flash drive the day after her funeral. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, wait," he said, "Would you want to do something with this? Maybe help this guy get the book published or put him on your podcast or something, like help get the message out there." And I said, "Honestly, I don't do a lot of hip hop stuff. I don't know enough about hip hop. It's a very, very diverse kind of, I'm going to say industry or genre. And people know that you don't know what you're talking about very quickly. And right. Anybody who talks to me about it is going to know immediately, like, this motherfucker don't know what he's talking about."
Right.
So I said, "So I'm not going to be able to do," like Wade talks about it. He knows all this stuff. He grew up with these guys and he knows their music, and I don't have a clue. So I kind of was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And then Wade said, "Listen, man," he said, "what do you think about me contacting Chris Todd?" And I went, he goes, "What do you think? Do you think Chris Todd might be interested?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Chris Todd, this is the kind of thing he looks into, kind of stuff he does. Like, I don't really know much about Chris Todd. I'd had him on my program a couple times." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, you could talk to Chris about that. Like, that's definitely how I would go. I would talk to Chris Todd." So he contacts Chris Todd. They have a conversation. By the way, between this time, Burgess has arranged for Wade to get a hold of the book. He actually sent like somebody sends him or gives him a book, the actual memoir that Courtney has had published, these little sample books. Wade's read the book, and Wade tells me, like, "Bro, if this is true," he said, this dude's a monster." He goes, and it's like literally it's horrific. He's like, and the book is talking about all kinds of, celebrities and insiders having sex with each other, guys that everybody thinks are heterosexual are actually homosexual. This is Combs taking advantage of people. These are, I'm not sure, like multiple people being forced and coerced into sexual situations. look, it's as bad as you can imagine. Everybody knows what's out there, right? So it's rough. It's all kinds of sex, and I don't recall any baby oil or anything, but it's all bad, and it's all coercion. And then he's videoing the stuff, and it's everything that everybody knows. And this is all in Kim Porter's memoir that Wade is reading, and Wade's read it, and he's like, listen, it's messed up. And it talks about all kinds of stuff. Talks about the whole I'll Be Sure and Diddy, talks about the kids, talks about, I think it's Bieber, and I mean, like, he's got all kinds of people. J-Lo is involved. Like there's all these celebrities are involved that are in the book. It's over the top salacious. So in March 25th, 2024, Homeland Security serves a search warrant on Diddy's residences, right? They hit him with the residences. They get a bunch of stuff. At that point, Wade contacts Todd. They go back and forth. They talk about it. Todd's interested, but he doesn't jump on it right away. Then the CCTV footage comes out of Cassie Ventura in the hallway of the hotel getting slapped around and dragged off by Diddy. After the footage comes out, now Chris Todd is super interested. He contacts Wade. Hey, listen, put me in contact with Courtney Burgess. He connects the two of them. Burgess sends Todd the flash drive that he's got. Now, Chris Todd doesn't quite understand what's happening, right? He's listening to Burgess. Burgess gets him on the phone. Burgess tells Chris Todd, listen, this is what I've got. I've got this one flash drive. I'll send it to you. He sends it to him. He contacts him and says, how did you get this? And he says, because there's nothing I can do unless I know how you got this. Right. Burgess tells him that the day after Kim Porter's death, the day after her funeral, he was given that flash drive by Kimora Simmons. He says that he and Kimora Simmons are friends. They've been friends, and that they've known each other, and that she had come to him and given him the flash drive. So that's the story that I get from Todd, that Kimora Simmons is the link between Kim Porter and Courtney Burgess. Now, here's the thing. Keep in mind, Courtney's just trying to get somebody to help him publish this book. He doesn't really, he didn't have any idea. I don't think he had any idea that this thing was going to be a big deal. I think he thought he was going to sell some books and he'd make a couple $1,000, maybe $10,000 if he was lucky, and that's it. Burgess is not a big picture guy. What happened was, I think Burgess thought, hey, I can get this to Chris Todd. He'll help me publish the book. So he tells him, hey, Kimora Simmons is the person that gave me these. We're friends. We've known each other on and off. Kimora Simmons, of course, is married to Russell Simmons. Mm-hmm. I think she lives in probably a $30 million house somewhere. I don't think that Courtney Burgess could get close to her. I don't think that Russell Simmons or Kimora would hire Courtney to wash their car. Right. I don't see how, but that's what he says. Okay, that's fine. So anyway, let's move on so I can get through this and we can have a discussion. I just want to lay all this out.
Okay. So right now you just want me to just let you talk, right?
Yeah. Are you what is your thought? You want to?
No, not at all. No, I just want to make sure I'm doing what you want.
Yeah. I just want to get to a point where we can I want to let you know how we got to this point.
I got you. No, this is good.
Because these are the facts. Like, I've already interviewed these people. I've spoken with these people. These are things that have been verified by multiple people.
Now, I'm gaining information. I'm enjoying what you're saying.
At this point, Todd decides, hey, I'm going to publish the book. It just so happens that he publishes the book and Diddy gets arrested. Here's the thing, though. They published the book. Diddy's been arrested, but guess what? Nothing happens. They're not selling any books. I think they sold something like, the number was like 36 books or 34 books in like the week or two after it's been released. So it's selling nothing. There's no, it hits it hits Amazon with a thud. Like there's nothing happens. All right. Now here's what happens is, so they're not selling anything. Chris Todd, Burgess, and Wade have an agreement, right? Like they work out an agreement on all of them getting a little bit of money if the book sells. Chris Todd has published the book, and what he does is Wade is like, man, it's not selling. So he contacts me and he says, listen, would you be willing? He's like, this book, I'm telling you, Matt, it's huge. It's salacious. There's a ton of stuff. And I'm like, okay. He goes, would you mind doing an interview with me where we can talk about the book? He goes, maybe try and get some book sales because it's not selling. And I went, yeah, bro, I don't have a problem with that. So Wade goes, let me contact Courtney and Todd. He contacts Courtney and Todd and says, look, this is what I want to do. Courtney and Todd both say, okay, well, don't mention my name. Like, don't mention me. Because they put out the book under the name, what was it, Jamal something. That apparently is Tupac Shakur's, the name he's allegedly living under, if he's still alive, whatever. Whatever. Yeah, I know. It's just silliness. So he puts it out on that. So they don't want their name attached to this book.
Right.
That's what they're saying. So Wade, but they say, but by all means, go ahead and do the video. So Wade and I go and we do a video on the book, on Kim Porter's memoir. It's called Kim Porter's Lost Words, and the book. And so Wade does we do a whole hour and change video on it, and it actually does really well. Like it really blows up, right? So it's like the Diddy insider reveals, I forget the clickbait BS. You know what we do. You know what we do.
Hey, you got to draw the crowd.
Right. I put a picture of Diddy on the front cover. It looks great. It's the clickbait, the clickbait title. And listen, it gets like 800,000 something. I think it's almost at 1 million. That's like I think it's close to 900,000. Anyway, the point is, right with the first day, it gets like 100, 200,000 views. Within another day, it's got 300,000 or 400,000. So it's blowing up. Well, Chris Todd, and they start selling books. Immediately, they start selling books. So Chris Todd sees this and he's like, you know what? This could be huge. Chris Todd does not sell a lot of books.
Right.
Chris Todd does salacious, celebrity, conspiracy theories. And so Chris Todd immediately turns around and he goes and he does an article. He calls a couple of reporters. Now by the way, he has been calling reporters because I forgot to mention this part. When Wade connected Chris Todd and Courtney together, Courtney told Chris Todd, hey, I also have 3 flash drives containing several videos of Diddy having sex with celebrities and underage celebrities. And he mentions, the names of Bieber. So it's Bieber, it's Usher, and that's all he says right then. And so anyway, so Wade mentions that. Wade mentions that on the podcast. And he mentions that he's got all these tapes. So one of the things we talk about on it is these salacious tapes that supposedly this person has. Now we don't mention Courtney's name because Courtney didn't want to be mentioned. So we put out the video. The video does very well. The book starts selling. Chris Todd decides, I'm going to start doing some press. He calls a bunch of reporters and says, hey, I'll go on the record and you can interview me about this book and about these Diddy tapes. We have the Diddy tapes. We have the Diddy sex tapes is what he's pitching it as. And when you ask Chris Todd, he'll tell you he's seen the tapes because he's asked, have you seen the tapes? And he says, yes, I've seen screenshots. I've seen bits and pieces of the tapes, right? I don't know that he says he's ever watched the entire tapes. But he says they definitely exist. He's sure they exist. And he knows the whole chain of custody, right? So he knows that Kimora Simmons gave them to Courtney Burgess. And when you hear Todd talk, he talks about how he received the tapes from two Hollywood insiders. So the 2 Hollywood insiders are it's Wade Williamson. Wade runs a YouTube channel called Crime and Entertainment. He's
Okay.
the inside. And by the way, his nickname, which I love his nickname, by the way, his nickname is Hollywood Wade. The other Hollywood insider is Courtney Burgess. So these are the two guys that connected him. And he also knows, of course, about Kamora Simmons. So anyway, the book does really well. Todd starts doing all of these different podcasts. One of them is The Art of Dialogue. Rolling Stone magazine interviews him. The book, within a couple of weeks, becomes a bestseller.
Wow.
Now, of course, the problem is that the book is salacious and it's saying horrific things about celebrities. And it also says some stuff about horrible things that Diddy put Kim Porter through. And it also talks about Albie Shore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Albie Shore is, of course, disgusted by the whole thing. He immediately gets a lawyer, sends a cease and desist letter to Chris Todd. Chris Todd, at this point, we're texting back and forth, and he's telling me about what's going on. And he's not worried at all. I remember he's like, oh, well, if he wants to sue Jeff Bezos, he can sue Jeff. It's like, you're an idiot. He's not suing Jeff Bezos. He might name Amazon in the lawsuit. He's definitely naming you. Mm-hmm. And of course, what really happens is the lawyer ends up also sending a cease and desist to Amazon, and Amazon doesn't want anything to do with it. And they immediately take the book down. So it was within about 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's up for roughly a month. It ends up being an Amazon bestseller. It's an Amazon bestseller. It sold over $1.5 million in book sales.
Man.
So you can only imagine how much money these guys got out of it, because basically you get about 1/3 to 2/3 of the price of a book on Amazon. I know I got a bunch of books on Amazon, so I ain't never sold nothing like that. Right. So, but I know what those figures are. Anyway, so at this point, and I'm asking Chris Todd, hey, you need to come on the program. You need to, and he's like, no, not right now, because Chris Todd starts getting a lot of backlash. And part of that backlash is, hey, what did you do to verify that this is true? You're saying horrible things about these guys. What did you verify? Oh, I can't reveal I looked into it. Remember, he says, at one point, he kind of says, like, if I release, I think he kind of alludes to the fact that he has like the flash drives. Mm-hmm. And that he's going to release them. And if he were to release them, Hollywood would shut down. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah,
it would shut down.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. We're almost to a point where we just have like a little conversation about this whole.
No, it's all good. I'm enjoying
it. So here's the thing. I don't know much about any of this, right? Like, it all seems like insanity to me. I end up sending the book. I end up contacting a buddy of mine named Pierre Rossini. I asked Pete if he'll read the book, and I send him a copy of the book, and he reads the book, and he comes back and he immediately says, something ain't right. Like, there's no way. Like, I mean, he's talking about Snoop Dogg being gay and having sex and having, semen on his back. And it's just a whole despicable, it's just ridiculous. Like, that Kim Porter walks in on the two of them together, and it's you've seen it, right? Have you read it?
No, I haven't. I have never taken the time to read that book. I think it wasn't worth my time. I knew it was fake.
Okay, well, I read it. Well, I read I think I read all of it, actually, to be honest with you. I think I've read it all. It's horrible. Yeah. So, all right. So anyway, horrible. And according to Pete, he's like, listen, a lot of this doesn't make sense. And he starts going through. Pete starts researching the book. And as he researches it, he finds all kinds of different issues with the timeline and where people were and where they really were and where. So there's all kinds of flaws in the book itself. There's flaws, let alone, let's put aside Courtney Burgess' story for now. So I contact Corey. I asked Wade, put me in contact with this guy. I'd like to have this guy on the podcast, because let's face it, I did 2 videos. One I did with a guy with Wade, got almost 900,000. Another one I did with a guy named Chad Marks, just about Diddy in general. And that thing got almost 1 million. It's got 950 or something. It's got a ton of views. So I said, man, let me get this guy Courtney on this, right?
Right.
Now, my buddy Pete's telling me something's fishy about the book. I think this is bullshit. He's like, I don't think Kim Porter wrote this book, is what he starts telling me. So I get Courtney on the phone. I call him. I get Courtney on the phone and I say, Courtney, listen, I'd love to have you on the podcast when we start talking. And Courtney tells me on the phone that same thing. He tells me about Kimora Simmons. Only this time he tells me he's got 3 flash drives. And he tells me that he got the flash drives 3 months prior to her death. Now, here's the problem with that, is that if you got those flash drives prior to her death, there's an issue. Because in the memoir, Kim Porter is writing up until the moment she calls 911 and dies.
Oh.
So Courtney says he received the flash drives with the book on it 3 months before she wrote what was on the flash drives.
Right.
Right. But so he's not really thinking these things that he's saying through. You'll see that as we talk about this. So I know, like I realized like, God, it went from 1 to 3, but I'd never talked to Courtney. So I don't really know. Like, it's like, I'm not in a position to say, no, wait a minute, bro. You said this before. I've only heard what Todd has told me and Wade has told me.
Right.
So, and this is the first time, like I talked to Todd, he told me about Kimora. Now Courtney's telling me about Kimora. And by the way, I've heard it from another source. And I'd also like to mention at one point, and this is later on, a few months later, Courtney received an email from someone advocating for Todd, because right now, Todd and Courtney don't even talk.
Okay.
Todd is such a child. He cannot have a conversation with Courtney without having a temper tantrum. So, well, I'll explain all that. He's kind of trying to backpedal and not pay these guys. He's looking for an excuse not to pay them because the disbursement's going to Todd.
Uh-oh.
Todd's, so, all right. Now, so he's doing everything he can in his power to kind of come up with some rift between them to withhold the funds. That's my opinion. But one of the things, so he's actually called me and asked me, will you talk to Wade and tell him this and tell him that? Like, he's telling me to tell him stuff. And I'm talking to Wade, and Wade's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's saying I did what? Like,
right.
What? It's all bullshit. Well, at one point he contacts somebody else, and that person sends an email to Courtney. Courtney thought the email came from me. So he sends me the email. He screenshots it, and he first texts me and he goes, yo, bro, I just read your email. What are you talking about? And I go, what email? I haven't sent you an email. He screenshots the email and sends it to me. In the email, the guy who's advocating for Todd tells Courtney, listen, Todd wanted me to let you know you need to get in touch with Kimora Lee. That's Kimora's name. Kimora Lee Simmons.
Okay.
You need to get in touch with Kimora Lee immediately and convince her to come forward and admit, and admit that she's the one that gave you the flash drives. Pretty much is what it says.
Right.
So now I've got another source that says he's been telling everybody it's Kimora. So,
wow.
Right. So now keep in mind too, since the memoir came out, Kimora has come out and said the memoir is fabricated. It's all a lie, that Kim Porter was not working on a manuscript. And in fact, her close friends are like saying Kim Porter was not a tech savvy person. She wouldn't know how to upload anything to the flash drive. She wouldn't know how to steal videotapes off of the surveillance system and record it on flash drives. So whatever, regardless. So when I talked to Courtney, Courtney says it's 3 tapes. And I don't know, I'm thinking, okay, I had heard it was 1, but now he's saying 3. And he got them 3 months prior to Kim Porter's death. That doesn't make sense either, because the book she's writing up till the day she dies. But I don't, keep in mind, I'm non-confrontational. I don't like to confront guys, because what happens is if you continue to confront your guests, here's what happens. You stop getting guests.
I know.
Right. So I'll let them bury themselves, and I will paint them into a corner if I have an issue, but I do not confront them. I talked to Courtney. Courtney says, absolutely, I would love to be on the program. And we schedule a time for him to be on the program. And keep in mind, Courtney is telling me what's important to him and he says this over and over again, is that he wants to get Kim's word out there. It's not about money for Courtney. Courtney's a man of principle, not about the money. He immediately asked me to give him like $500 to do the program. I tell him, I'm not giving you $500. I'm like, I don't even know what this, if we're going to even get any views. He tells me it's going to make millions, or it's going to get millions of views. I said, yeah, even if it gets millions of views, that's still not going to be that much money. Like you have a warped sense of how much YouTube's paying me, bro. So I end up telling him, I work out a deal. I tell him I'll give him $200. No, I tell him I'll give him $200 and 20% of what the video makes.
You were extremely kind.
So, and I explain how the algorithm works and how much money he could make. If it gets 100,000 views, it makes this much. If it gets 1 million, this much. I said, that's a rough estimate. And he goes, and I said, I'll screenshot I'll show you the studio, how much money, the analytics, everything.
Right.
So I guess he gets desperate because about 4 days later, we're about to do our podcast. And 3 or 4 days later, he calls me and says, listen, man, forget about the 20%. Just send me the $200 now. You don't owe me the 20%.
Oh, okay.
Oh, listen, what a mistake that was, because he would have easily made well over $1,000. But whatever. Like I said, and here's the thing: if he had asked me to give him the $200 right then, I would have given it to him and given him the 20%. But he actually have a text that says it. I have a text that says, "Yeah, don't worry about the 20%." Okay, so I'm not. So we get together and we do the podcast. On the podcast, we talk about how he received the book. He will not say Kimura's name. He just tells me a friend of hers, that someone gave it to him. And he says, again, 3 months prior to her death. He also, when I ask him about the sex tapes, he tells me, he also rambles on about Tupac and about how he knows Tupac. He does a bunch of rambling. He mumbles a lot, whatever. Anyway, I slowly back him into a corner about the tapes. And I get him to the point where I'm like, did you watch the videotapes? And he says, yes, he watched. He said, well, I didn't watch all of them. You know, if a man is watching another man have sex with a woman, that makes him gay. I was like, okay, well, you know, I don't know what that says about me, because I've watched some stuff. So anyway, so what happens is but we talk, and I said, okay, but this is what's funny. He didn't really watch all the tapes, but he watched enough to know that it was Justin Bieber, that he was under the influence. It was Justin Bieber under the influence, and that it was Combs had sex with Justin Bieber. He had sex with Usher. He knows that Bieber, he can tell you all the tattoos that Bieber does and doesn't have. He can tell you what kind of haircut he has. I'm like, okay, so you did watch the tapes. Yeah, I watched some of them. Okay. Then he throws in Will Smith.
Uh-huh.
Will Smith's son. I forget his name. Is it
Jaden? Yeah.
Jaden Smith in there. He says, oh yeah, and Will Smith's son. And I said, were they underage? They were all underage. He even says that Bieber was probably close to 16 years old. Not quite 16, but close to 16. They were under the influence. He talks about how Usher was like basically drinking champagne. He has a whole thing. Talks about the videotapes. And then I say, okay, do you have the video? Like, I don't understand. You had them on a flash drive. He goes, well, I used my computer to watch them, but I got them off my computer. And he said, I don't know how it works. Maybe it went to the cloud. He's like, I'm not sure, but I got them off the computer because I use my computer for editing at the studio, whatever. And then he ends up saying, and I say, okay, but you do still have them. And he says, yeah, I still got them. I said, well, why haven't you given those tapes to the FBI, or I'm sorry, to the feds, to the government?
Mm-hmm.
That's evidence. That's perfect. 100% proof of what Combs has been up, what Diddy's been up to. And he says, oh no, in my neighborhood, that's snitching. And my first thought was, in my neighborhood, that's protecting children.
Yeah.
But, I guess enabling a sexual predator is acceptable for Burgess, a man of principle. But what I definitely get him to admit is that he's still got the tapes, all 3 flash drives. Wait, does he say 11 on my podcast?
Oh, I've heard him say 8, 11, 3. I've heard all kind of.
He changed it from 3 to 11 on my podcast. So if you watch that video, it's 11, not 3. So he went from 1 flash drive to 3 flash drives. Now it's 11 flash drives. So while we're talking, he admits to being in possession of CP. And I tell him, you're in possession of CP.
Mhm.
You're in possession of CP. And because you've moved it from this device onto a computer and off your computer, like that's distribution. And because you're walking around with it, like these are, and you've sent stuff and you've sent stuff to Todd. Now he told me Todd has never seen any of the videos. Means that Todd is lying. If what Todd has been saying, and I believe Todd has said that he's seen the videos, Burgess said he's never seen a video. He says, he told me he hasn't seen any videos because he goes, even though he's been pressuring me to show him the videos, he said, I haven't given him the videos. Oh, he's been pressuring me for the flash drives. He goes, I won't give it to him. I told him I'm not giving them to him until he gives me the money. Right. Because Todd hasn't released any funds yet.
From the book.
From the book.
Okay.
So Burgess wants his cut before he gives him the flash drives. Here's the problem. I released my video. And in the comment sections, people crucify him. They just cut Burgess in half. Like they are like, basically, did I just hear this guy say he's watching CP? Did I just hear this guy say he's in possession of CP? That's illegal. I'm going to contact the feds. So, I mean, there's over 3,300 comments.
Right.
95% of them are, this guy's a scumbag. He's watching this material. He has not turned it over to the federal government. I'm contacting the authorities. This guy's going to end up in prison. He's in possession of CP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At that point, I released that video. By that night, Burgess does a live video with someone. I forget what it is because they took it down. So I don't have the link. It may be back up somewhere, but he does a live video with someone.
Was that Queen Amadea?
It was definitely a black woman.
Yeah, that's Queen Amadea Shakur. That's her name. I actually spoke with her about that, and she still got those recordings. So he tells her that I already turned over she says, do you still have the tapes? And he says, I already turned them over to the feds. Already turned them over. Okay, so what's happened, here's what I think happened in his mind. Now, this is purely speculation. Everything else I've been saying is factual. This is speculation on my part. Burgess read the comments. I know he read the comments because he texted me about the comments and how bad they were. And he texted me because he said that I was liking the comments and that I was like agreeing with and he said, like, you told people you think I should go to jail. And I said, I never said that. I know I never would have specifically said that. Right.
So, anyway, so he was upset about the comments. So he then tells her, I don't have the flash drives anymore because he realizes I'm admitting to a federal crime. Right. So he tells her he got rid of them. The next day, I'm actually in an airport. I was actually coming back from, I forget where I was coming back from, but I was flying in and I was actually in the security line. And he texts me and says, the feds just raided my house. They took the flash drives. They took all of my equipment. They stole they took all my stuff. And I come back and I was like, who raided you? And he said, the FBI raided me. They had a search warrant. They took everything. They took the flash drives. And I come back and I went, listen, man. Well, he told me he was raided the next day. I said, look, I saw that video last night. You didn't say, like I basically say, you didn't say that the feds raided you. And he said, oh, well, what was I going to tell her? I was going to tell everybody my business. I don't tell people my business. I said, and then I end up telling him, listen, why don't you do me a favor? Now, I know that the FBI is not involved in his case. They would not have served the search warrant. So I know this is complete bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I realize he's changing his story. And I realize he doesn't want anybody to know he has the flash drives. He doesn't want anybody contacting the authorities. He wants everybody to believe that I don't have them. The feds took them. Leave me alone.
Right.
So, and he tells me that it was the day before and that he was raided. I said, great. Can you send me the search warrant? He says, I ain't telling everybody my business. I'm a grown man. I'm 54 years old. I don't have to show you nothing. I ain't showing you the search warrant. And I was like, okay. I said, I was just wanting to see the search warrant, see what they took, and maybe it would give us an idea of what they were interested in.
Right.
Anyway, I talked to my buddy Pete. My buddy Pete starts laughing. He goes, well, he's just trying to deflect the fact that, that he wants people to think he doesn't have the tapes anymore. He knows he fucked up. Right. 4 days later, he texts me. I don't think I'm ever going to talk to Burgess again, because he kind of was yelling at me like, I'm a grown man. I don't have to give you nothing. Like, hey, I was just asking, bro. I'm like, and I even said to him, look, man, I was just asking for a copy of the search warrant. I wasn't asking for your bank statements.
Right.
So it shouldn't be a big deal. Anyway, 4 days later, he texted me again. He said, I was just raided again. Really? So you were raided again? I said, by who? He goes, Homeland Security. So now I think, hey, you know what? That may be true. And I went, great. Can what's going on? And he said, here's the search warrant. And he immediately texts me a picture of a subpoena. Same thing he did to you.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I read it and I realize that's not a search warrant. Why would Homeland Security raid your house if the FBI had raided it 4 days earlier and gotten a hold of all of your electronics, including the flash drives? So I of course, send it to my buddy Pete. Pete reads it. We talk about it. Pete says, listen, this guy's a liar. It's not true. And Pete had actually made the prediction that the guy that wrote this book, Kim Porter's book, is someone who is in his 50s, probably, he said, an African-American man in his 50s who knows all of the lore of that time period. Of Diddy. I'm sorry, everything about Diddy, everything about Tupac, everything about Snoop, everything about like all of the guys that made it that he didn't. Everybody during that genre that made it big, and this guy didn't. And so we're already thinking this is Courtney who just pinned this whole thing.
Yeah.
So here's what's funny. He's been subpoenaed at this point, right?
Right.
So he appears in front of the grand jury on October 31st. Bro, this has happened fast. This has all happened within a month. Yeah. He goes in front of the grand jury, and this is what he tells me. He tells me that they played he and I's, because I was the first person he was actually on there he was the first person. I was the first podcast to do a podcast with him.
Right. So
they played my podcast. If you look at the subpoena, my podcast came out on the 23rd, and the very next day, the grand jury, they issued a subpoena for him to come and appear in front of them.
That was fast.
On the 26th, they serve him. So on the 28th, he shows up in front of the grand jury. Courtney told me that they played our interview as the U.S. attorney questioned him about the things that he had said. Now, I know that Courtney couldn't have possibly told them, I don't have the flash drives anymore because the FBI took it. He can't tell the grand jury and the U.S. attorney the FBI took them. They know that the FBI didn't take them. What he ends up, we end up finding out that what Courtney told them is, I threw them out. I got rid of them. Like I did the interview and I threw them out. Now he's telling me and everybody else that, and you, that he was raided by the FBI and the FBI took him.
Mm-hmm.
But we know he didn't tell them that. We also know that he's telling them he's got 11 flash drives that have been disposed of. He's watched the videos, and yet he wasn't arrested. So I think he wasn't arrested. He wasn't charged because they were just letting him bury himself.
Right.
At that point.
Yeah.
So he immediately goes out with his lawyer, Ariel, I forget her last name. Ariel Mitchell. He goes out and they immediately do an interview on the courtroom steps with TMZ.
Mm-hmm.
They then go to News Nation. And on News Nation, Ariel corrects Courtney's lie about being raided. She says he was never raided. She says, I don't know how that got twisted. She said, but he was served a subpoena. And that was it. That's all she says. He was served a subpoena. So now we've got 2 raids that he lied about. She never mentions the FBI because he doesn't mention that to her. So less than a week later, the grand jury, and I'm assuming at this point, the grand jury, the U.S. attorneys have put it together that Courtney has changed his story, because he's telling everybody at this point, it's 11 flash drives. He's saying that, so he's changed his story now. He's told people that it wasn't one of Kim Porter's friends. He's now telling people that it was, I think at one point he said that Kim Porter gave him the flash drives. Another point he said that it was a man that Kim Porter used to date. And then another point he says he received the flash drives from a man that has died, since given him died. He also changed the timeline of he's received the flash drives 10 years prior to her death, to 3 months prior to the death, and even after her death. So he's changed his story over and over again. He told you that it wasn't really his name, that Courtney Burgess wasn't even his real name. So Courtney Burgess, in my opinion, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but I did do 13 years in federal prison. I've been around a lot of sick people. In my opinion, he's a pathological liar. I believe. Oh, by the way, so a week after he was in front of the grand jury, they issued another subpoena for him to come back. They want to talk to him again. I believe that the reason this was done was because they want to double check all. They want to basically paint him into a corner and get him to admit in front of the grand jury once again that he's lied. They want to get him on the record lying. But this time, by this point, what was her name? Ariel? What was her name?
Ariel Mitchell.
Ariel Mitchell, his lawyer, she most definitely knows that Courtney is prone to lying.
Right.
And at this point, she realizes this guy's, she's been following this. She's seen him change his story multiple times. So this time when they contact him with the subpoena, she tells him, I can get you out of it. I can tell them that you're going to plead the Fifth Amendment. You're going to plead the Fifth, that you don't want to say anything that may incriminate you. So you don't want to answer any questions that might incriminate you. And that's what she does. And so he doesn't go to the second grand jury appointment by saying, hey, I don't want to say anything because I may incriminate myself. Because she knows at this point, he's done some serious damage to the government's case.
Yes.
So real quick, my impression of what's happened is that Courtney saw an opportunity after Kim Porter died, and probably may have started the book probably right after Cassie filed her lawsuit. So I think when Cassie filed her lawsuit and he saw the outlandish accusations and he saw that Diddy paid her so quickly, and he thought to himself, all I have to do is connect this to Kim Porter, and I can say that someone gave me this flash drive, and I can try and put out the book. So I think at that point is when he probably wrote the book, to be honest.
Right.
And now he may have tried earlier, but I think that's probably when he tried to do it. It may have been before, but I don't think so. I think he saw a quick payday. I think he thought I can write a salacious memoir that I can cobble together by bits and pieces of kind of conspiracy that's out there in the hip hop community about these parties and about Diddy's behavior. And I can get it published and sell it. But he wasn't bright enough to be able to do it himself. So he eventually has to have somebody connect him to Chris Todd. Chris Todd, of course, puts the book up immediately. He doesn't do any research. Chris Todd, I actually, unfortunately, because of that email that I told you about,
right?
Because of that email, I believe that Chris Todd really does believe that Courtney Burgess has videotapes. Now, so Chris Todd is just he's just foolish. He's a foolish person, and he didn't want to look at. You ever heard of willful blindness?
Absolutely, I was going to say that. That's all that was. Yeah,
right. He wants to believe this, so he's not looking into it because he wants to believe that Courtney has these tapes, that they can either sell the tapes or they can twist it, and that it's going to be connected. It's going to make Kim Porter's memoir a real thing, and they're going to make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Anyway, at this point, I would say that Courtney wrote the manuscript, got it to Chris Todd. Chris Todd put it on Amazon. They sold, I think it's like over, is it like close to like, is it like over 30,000 books or something? It was an outrageous amount of books in literally a few weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. So that's what I think this whole thing has happened, that Burgess wrote it. He connected it to Kimora Simmons. And here's the thing, Kimora Simmons has come out and said that the book is bullshit.
So let me ask you though real quick. So does Kimora know that Burgess is saying that he got the book from her?
No, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that except for maybe 5 people that he's told.
Wow.
Here's the only reason I'm mentioning it now is because recently Chris Todd came out on a podcast, and Chris Todd was kind of threatening Burgess, saying he's playing a dangerous game. And, Chris Todd's kind of a child, and he's like, but I'm better at the game. And I'm letting him know that I'm gonna basically say, he kind of in a roundabout, if you know what's happening,
right,
you realize he's basically saying, I'm going to let people know the source of this information, which would be Kim Porter. And that's why we're having this conversation, because Chris Todd's about to release this information anyway.
Oh,
he's about to tell. I think he's about to tell everybody, because right now everybody's saying, Chris Todd, you're lying. They probably think that Chris Todd may have known about this.
Oh, okay.
And he's trying to say, hey, we need Kimora to come out and admit she gave us Courtney, the flash drives. But he's a fool, because because Kimora Simmons certainly has never had anything to do with Courtney and wouldn't entrust him to get this. Like, why wouldn't you just give it to the government?
Right.
So that's where I'm at. That's the whole kind of sequence of events. It's much more complicated than that. I actually wrote a whole like a synopsis on the thing. I'm gonna put it on my website, but I haven't done it yet, because you and I had that conversation, and I thought, hey, you would be the perfect person, because you understand exactly all of this stuff. You understand what's happening way better than I do, probably. I just happen to have some inside information.
Yeah, you got some good inside information.
What was so funny is that it correlates. Like, you don't have any of this information, and yet you've been saying all of this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was easy. I mean,
yeah, okay. But most people aren't saying it.
I know. I don't. But
they want to believe it.
That is crazy to me, man. And I draw it out and just showed every single lie. Not every single lie, because you can't. I'll still be
too much.
But I broke down so many lies that the man told. I mean, it was real simple. He's saying that he did a raid. He got raided, and I'm like, what? The feds raided your house. The first thing that I was thinking, he's sitting there in the bedroom, and I know when the feds raid your house, they gonna tear your house up.
Yeah.
And so he had already kind of took the camera and showed me his house. Is like, yeah, I got a nice house. My bedroom big as a living room, and it was a nice size room and all that stuff, but nothing was tore up. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't he just didn't, I knew he was lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just intuition in general. He's changed his story so many times. He doesn't speak with confidence. He's not credible. Here's the problem with the whole thing. The problem is he's and keep in mind, Combs's team have come out and they've said, like, they've asked for a gag order to get him to stop talking. And that's really just kind of legal maneuvering.
Right.
They're telling him, look, he's poisoning the jury pool, right?
I think, though, what's going to happen with Courtney is he is going to end up getting himself locked up. And I don't see no way around it. I know some people disagree, but I don't see no way around it. I don't see no way around that. He going to jail, man. Period.
Right. Here's why I think. Because Combs's Fifth Amendment right is being violated, right? Like, the government has to they have to provide a fair trial, right? Like, they can't damage allow his ability to get a fair trial. The government can't allow that. And he's right now, Courtney this hasn't gotten millions of views. Okay. It's gotten tens of millions of views. His story has been repeated. Plus, if you take just the views and the social media views, the TikToks, all of these, he is disseminating the fact that Combs that there are videotapes of Combs having sex with celebrities and children that are intoxicated, that are being coerced, that's what Burgess is saying. So that is violating Combs's right to a fair trial. The other thing is the court. The court also, even if the government came forward and said, hey, we don't think that's true, guess what? The court has the right or has the duty to provide a fair trial also. They both have to provide a fair trial. So they have two different grounds to say that Courtney is destroying our ability to have a fair trial. And it's not like a local town where there was a couple of news articles and you can move it to the adjacent county or 5 counties over. The truth of the matter is, this is all over the world. There are tens of millions of views, possibly, hundreds of millions of views, or at least 100 million views of people that have seen and now believe that there are tapes showing this. So that's one problem. The other problem is now all Combs, if the government doesn't charge Courtney, then Combs's attorneys can just put him on the stand and say, tell us about how the FBI has these videotapes. Like, tell us about this, show us this, prove to us this, tell us. And then if the government hasn't indicted, they've essentially endorsed.
That's right.
His testimony. The government, so they'll make him look like a liar and then say, so you disseminated this information. The government knows you are a witness in the grand jury. The government knows you're lying and they did not indict you, which means the government wanted you to say all these things. And we can now prove that it's a lie and you don't have the tapes. And where are these videotapes?
Because if you think about it, the government, to my knowledge, has never come out and said we got tapes or we don't got tapes.
They haven't.
You think they do got tapes?
No, they've never said. I've never.
Oh,
heard
yeah.
They've never said we have tapes of Combs doing this and this and this and this. Never.
Right. That started on social media, all the talk about tapes. So that's why he jumped on the bandwagon and said, okay, I got tapes too. That, like you said, to add to the story to try to sell the book. But what was happening here is, like you said, I'm just repeating what you said, and I agree 100% that he thought in his mind, look, I'm going to say I got tapes. It's going to promote the book more. I'm going to sell me enough books, make me a quick. I don't think he was thinking about making 100,000. He was trying to make $1 million in my mind. I'm going to make me a quick million, and then I'm done, and that's it.
He's about to collect a small fortune. Like, I don't want to get into exactly. Well, I'm not saying that. I don't know if Todd's going to pay him or not. But
Todd not get paid.
Huh?
Todd not going to get paid for that.
I don't think.
No, I can tell you why. I believe so. You know that Diddy Kids has filed a some kind of lawsuit to stop the.
I don't think they filed the lawsuit yet. I think they did a cease and desist.
Okay, so but they have started the process. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure they sent a copy of all that to Amazon before they released them. Amazon is not going to release that money until they know for sure what's going on the legal side, because they don't want to get involved in that. I'm telling you. And so what's going to happen is his kid. So he's saying that he got the memoir from Kim Porter. It's hers. He got it from her. It somehow came from her, which we know he lying. So people thinking like they think that the kids have filed it, but don't know they're going to get the money because his mama really didn't write that book. But he the one said she did. He said that. So since you said it, then that's what it is. According, he done said it on every platform he done got on, right?
Yes.
So when it shows that his kids own the estate, that money is going to go to them, and Todd is not going to get any of that money. I'm telling you, because he didn't have no legal rights to produce that book. Because if he'd got legal rights, it'd have been either from Kim or from his kids that owns her estate. Does that make sense?
It does, but I don't know that they're going to be able to act fast enough. I don't know that Amazon's going to hold that money just yet, but we'll see. That'll come out in time. So the other thing is, do you know? Remember remember Jaguar started talking about the tapes that are out there?
Yeah.
So here's the thing: when Courtney contacted Todd and told him about the flash drives, Todd started shopping them around. started telling people, reporters, he had this huge thing. There were these tapes. He had tapes of Diddy doing this and this and this with this, and this is what the tapes are. And that rumor got started. So I think that those supposed tapes that were out there were started by Todd before the book was ever even released.
So that helps me out. That answers one of my questions, because I've been asking people like to really think about what's going on here. Like, everybody talking about these tapes, including me. I've mentioned the tapes before too, right? But then when you stop to think about it, it's like, who said they had tapes? Where did that come from? So it must have came from Todd, and everybody's going with it.
Listen to this. So we're talking about in March 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So it was either in March or Combs posted. Hold on, Chris. Yeah, I want to say it was in March of 2024, late March. So let's say March, or I don't know, whatever, roughly March, late March.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Todd first heard about the videotapes in March. So he starts spreading this to all the reporters out there that I have these tapes, and he's looking for someone to possibly buy the tapes. Right. So think about it. Then Jaguar hears about it. She starts saying, oh, there's tapes out there. And that whole thing gets a buzz created about these tapes. But the truth is, all of this is stemming from Courtney.
Right.
So these guys have absolutely destroyed the jury pool that's out there. And that's everywhere, by the way. You can't pick up, and New York can't say, listen, we're going to take this and we're going to move this to Connecticut. They can't move it to Florida.
Right.
Every juror out there believes at this point that there are videotapes showing Combs with underage children and coercing them and coercing people to have intercourse, and he's drugging these people. That's what they believe, even though the truth is it's all Courtney and Todd spreading rumors. Now, listen, Todd believed it. Todd probably believed. Maybe it's willful blindness. Maybe he's just naive. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's all stemming from Courtney.
Let me tell you something, man.
Diddy may actually Diddy may actually get his case dismissed because of this idiot.
I'm gonna make a strong prediction. I don't think he's gonna get it dismissed. What I think is gonna happen is he's gonna get a phenomenal, and when I say a phenomenal plea bargain. Because at the end of the day, I mean, look, you've been to the feds, you know how they play. They're gonna come to him with a heavy plea, and if you don't take it, then he's gonna have to fight. And you know, Diddy facing life right now. So do you think that he is gonna say, okay, I'll take these 10 years and then hopefully I can get out in 7 or 8? Or you think he's gonna say, you know what? No, I'm gonna go ahead and fight and put my life on the line. He's gonna be faced with a tough decision.
Look, the thing is, at this point, God, I don't know. I mean, if it was me, I'd take the 10 years, because depending on what he pleads guilty to, he could be out in 6.
Exactly. He could be out in 3 or 4 years and get probation.
But once again, you know, this is a guy who's doing everything he can just to get bail. He's in such agony right now and such stress because of being in prison. Like, he's desperately trying to get out of prison right now, get bail. So he may actually want to go to trial. I wouldn't go to trial.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to trial.
Because all of these women that have sued him, they'll all just get on the stand and say one horrific thing against him after another. Yeah. And people, they'll throw him in, they'll convict him just because of those stories alone.
Yeah. You didn't, I want to ask you, didn't Ariel Mitchell, his attorney, say that she saw stills of these tapes before on News Nation or something like that? Or am I wrong?
So I want to say I've heard that. I'm not sure, but here's the thing. Ariel wouldn't know what those stills were.
That's right.
Didn't he send you stuff?
Yes, he did.
Right. So, and Todd said he's seen stuff too.
Yeah.
So, but these are videos of Diddy that are already circulating from decades ago.
Yeah.
A decade ago.
And he also sent me some stuff of some other people that didn't. I'm like, who was that?
This is Courtney. Courtney sent you this.
Yeah, Courtney. He said that's J-Lo. And I'm looking, I'm like, dude, come on, man. That ain't no dang on J-Lo, man. Quit lying. But he sent me some stuff. But see, the thing is, and I know a lot of people say, well, why would you be willing to tell him that some P. Diddy sex tapes was that was alleged to be sex tapes was sent to your telephone? I don't have nothing to hide because the feds already got this information. Because remember, they took his telephone. And I still got the messages in my telephone, and I'm not deleting it because if or when they ever approach me, I'm just say, well, you know what he gave me. Here go my phone. That's it. I'm not even going to like mess around with it or whatever because he sent me that stuff in order to get me to interviewing. You know what I'm saying? And listen, trust me, as a podcast, I'm like, what? In the beginning, I'm like, man, let's do this interview. And then, of course, he told me, he going to charge me and all that. And I paid him. So I hit him back and I'm like, look, I'm not in a position to lose the money, bro. I don't want to do the interview no more because I know you're lying. You know what I'm saying? I just told him straight up, I know you're lying. And I got text message to prove all this stuff. And he just hit me with, no, I'm not giving you nothing back. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do this interview. Or basically, I'm keeping your money. Okay, then let's do the interview. And then that's when people got so upset with me because of the way I was talking to him and dealing with him. But the whole time, you got to understand that I already knew that this dude was lying.
Yeah. Yeah. You knew more than I did because I kind of thought that he was just a scumbag, that maybe he had some tapes. Like, well, I don't know. By that point, I talked to Pete. My buddy had basically told me something's wrong. I think this guy, I think this is bullshit. This book doesn't make sense. And Pete didn't know enough about the situation other than the history that's there to say. And so Pete was, so while I was talking to him, I was still very skeptical. But yeah, you figured it out pretty quickly. I think he's got to get indicted. I think the fact that they've called him to grand jury twice, the government doesn't indict him, then if I was Diddy's, and look, this is the thing. Look, like I'm not a fan of Diddy. I think what Courtney has done is horrific. I mean, Courtney thought to himself, hey, how can I make a bunch of money off the back of a dead woman who, honestly, from all accounts, despite her taste in men, seemed like an absolutely decent human being.
Mm-hmm.
And Courtney thought to himself, hey, how can I make some money off of this woman's death?
But even if she wasn't a decent human being, like, what gives you the right to do that, man? That woman got kids. He wrong on multiple levels. You know what I'm saying? But I want to go over that jail thing, if you don't mind, again, because I'm really like sold that he gonna get arrested for this. And because, okay, so you online saying that you got these tapes, right? And then they subpoenaed you to come in, and they subpoena. If you look at the subpoena, it clearly says bring in tapes, electronics, everything you got that basically could have any kind of recordings on them. You get to the grand jury and you tell them what?
Oh, I threw them away.
I threw them away. Okay, now you threw the tapes away. So what did you do? You lied.
Yeah.
Once they prove he lied, there go a warrant right there that they can just put right on him. And then people might think, well, why ain't they did it then? Because this is a huge case. They busy working out so many other details right now. But when they get to him, we'll probably be the first to know because they probably gonna contact us because we got one of the people because we got information in our telephones that he sent us that's fake. So they're gonna want to know about that. And they're gonna watch. If they don't get him, the only way I only see right now as I'm sitting here thinking about it, is only one way for him to wiggle out of it. And that's for him to play like what he really is crazy. Because something got to be wrong with Courtney. Yeah. Sometime when I look at him, it's like I'm looking at him and I'm like, man, I kind of feel sorry for him sometimes. Because what made you think that you could tell all these lies on TV? Let's just call it TV. On TV, millions of people looking at you. And you saying your house got raided twice. He's sending you text messages, sending me text. Oh man, they came again. They did it. They raided again. And then you just keep getting on TV telling these same dumb lies.
Right.
And you lied on stage with your lawyer. Your lawyer was like, I don't know about the raid. Didn't get raided, but So, the fact that he is willing to continue to come on the screen and tell these lies, it just tells me that something is not clicking, you know what I'm saying, in his head.
So I agree on part of that, and I disagree. One, I think there's a problem. I think he's definitely, on the sociopathic scale, obviously. Mm-hmm. He's definitely, I think he's, obviously there's different variations of different degrees of being, let's say, a pathological liar. I think part of it is probably pathological, but I also think that a part of it is he's just a con man. He saw an opportunity to make money. And here's the thing. Here's why I say that is he charged me money because I've done 2 interviews.
Mm-hmm.
One was $200, one was $250. Charged you $250.
Mm-hmm.
Charged every interview we've seen. I guarantee he has been charged a minimum of $200 or $300, and he's been on what 5, 6?
Yeah, and more than that, probably. Ain't no telling. But no, but I want to explain something quick. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that he is a con artist, 1,000%.
Okay.
But just like he can be a con artist and kind of cuckoo at the same time.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Listen, it takes a cuckoo person to be I'm a con artist.
Yeah.
I know. I'm not all there.
You're right.
I promise. I have some problems.
But you know that if you caught in a lie, you know how to stop right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Look, you own up to it immediately.
Oh,
that's
man.
your best bet. Own up to it immediately. Pathological liars tend to just keep digging in deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's what he's done. He's blatantly lied to me over and over and over again. And because I don't confront him on it, he keeps thinking he's gotten away with it.
Do you know when
he's texting me to this day?
When you was interviewing him, I watched it again, right? And I just cannot stop laughing at the way you looking. Like he should have knew that you looking at him like this is bullshit.
Listen, do you remember what I sent you? Remember? So Courtney today, he sent me a letter today a link today to an article that was written about him. Then I came back. You know what I said to him? I didn't tell you all this. I came back and I said, I put, "You're a rock star." I said, "You're a rock star." And he goes, "Why I don't feel that way." And then I put, "You'll feel like a rock star when Todd cuts your check." And he goes, yes.
No. See? Do you see what I'm saying? Oh.
I tell this dude he's a rock star. Like he's completely taken in by me. He texts me almost all the time. Like, "What you doing, Cox?" Like, we're not friends.
Let me ask him, do he still have the same number or did his number change?
No, I think it changed.
Okay. That's why. Okay.
Yeah, no, it definitely changed because he had Wade give me the number. I have his old number. Yeah, this is his new number.
Yeah, he don't want nothing to do with me because I was straight up with it. You was actually a lot smarter than me because you played him. You kind of walked along with it and you end up getting better results from. But I just couldn't help it, man. I hate it. Like I can't even explain to you, man. When somebody come on my platform and just start telling, like, look, I've done interviews where I knew people was lying. You know what I'm saying? But I just figured they was lying to like enhance the story a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you tell stories and people don't want to believe them, so you kind of add a little seasoning to it just to get them, catch their interest. I understand that. I get that. But to blatantly lie the way he was, I can't. And look, and I understand, that I'm gonna lose I lost a lot of followers behind that. And I also lost temporary credibility because they was like, "Man, you just blast him like that," and it make people not want to come on. But I'm sorry, man. I guess I just had to deal with the market that I'm dealing in because I cannot stand to have people come on there and just lie to us. And it's hard to lie to both me and Merlin at the same time. It's kind of difficult. So if we don't get guests, we don't get guests, I guess.
Well, I mean, the real thing is don't come on your program and blatantly lie to you.
It didn't work out.
No, that's like to me. I'm a little bit more. I was just manipulative. Like I'm more willing to do the whole. Oh wow, golly gee whiz, that's crazy. Oh yeah. Oh, I can't believe that happened.
Man, but the face, like man, like the way you was looking had me crying, man. It was hilarious because you just like looking at him like, and I'm thinking to myself, he don't see how he looking at him,
But they're talking about watching child CP, watching CP, and being in possession of it. And then when I said, "You realize that that's illegal for you to have," he's like, "I didn't make it." Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
See, the problem is somebody told him that he was a professional liar. Right. You know what I'm saying? And whoever told him that was actually a professional liar because he really, man, I hate to. I don't want to give the impression that I'm supporting him or, making an excuse for him, but something is wrong with the dude, man. Like, I just can't get past that something is wrong with him because he even convinced, this is alleged, I don't know, you might know more about this. Didn't he convince the attorney, or maybe Chris Todd, convinced the attorney to say that they had the tapes and she saw steals and all that stuff. I mean, that's just crazy for an attorney to come out there and say that, because I even made a video about that and I said, man, why would his attorney come out there and say that she had these tapes or seen steals of them? But I think that she just didn't. She
yeah,
didn't.
I think she's just believing what they, Todd is believing Burgess, and they're providing her stills, and she's not in a position to determine the what, whether those stills are legitimate, the legitimacy of those stills. Are they really tapes, or are they really still shots of Combs, and who are these people? Like, look, she's a professional person. She doesn't know any better. She's not a part of this world. She doesn't, so for her, I feel like she's been duped.
Right.
She's been duped. But here's the thing: I think she's backpedaling because she's realized by now, hey, I think this guy's lying, and that's why she wouldn't let him go back in front of the grand jury. Like, I can't let my client. She's looking out for her client, whether he's whether he's a liar or not. She's looking out.
Yeah, it's her job to look out for her client, but either way, he done already because he already lied.
Yeah, if the government doesn't indict him, they're effectively endorsing what he's saying, and all Combs's team has to do is get him on the stand. And he may plead the fifth when he gets on the stand, but they'll probably be able to play the videos and everything else.
Look, if he plead the fifth, he going to prison.
No, I don't think. I mean, look, he's probably going to be indicted. If he's indicted, then he's definitely going to plead the fifth. He can't go get on the stand and he'll just bury himself more and more. His lawyer won't let him get on the stand.
Well, here's the deal. Let me tell you something. He already committed a crime.
I agree. I'm saying he'll get indicted.
Yeah. But I'm saying that here's why I don't think he's gonna plead the fifth. Let me break this down real quick. He can get charged with watching what they call it, CP.
Yeah,
is that how you say it? He can get charged with watching CP. He said it, not them. He said it with his mouth. Then he said he threw the tapes away. So if they say, okay, then you know what? We go with that story. You did it. So then let's do that. So they're going, you know how it works. They're going to hit him with the timeline, and then the feds is so creative. They come up with all these different charges. They're going to come up with more charges. And then they're going to say, okay, look, you facing, I don't know, X amount of years. But if you testify, we can help you out. So he got a choice to do. He got a choice to make. And they have probably already been in contact with him about this, and he's not telling nobody. Remember, this dude is a pathological liar. So he probably been dealing with the feds already. Hell, his lawyer not going to tell us that.
It's possible. I think that it would have had to have been, if that were to happen. I don't think it's happened yet, but and look, I don't know. But I think when they called him back to the grand jury the second time, and he pled the fifth, I think that's when they definitely would have said, okay, let's indict this guy. Then they would have indicted him.
I think that's what they're in the process of doing right now. I'm telling you.
They could have indicted him, and it's a sealed indictment. He could be indicted. We don't even know. I think he would have stopped texting me, though. I think they would have said, you've been indicted. Shut your fucking mouth. I don't think I would have been getting texts. That's why I'm saying I'm still getting texts from him.
Remember his lawyer. Look, think about this. You sitting right next to your attorney. And the lady from News Nation, I forgot her name, she asked him a question about the raid. She knew he was lying, right? His lawyer said he can't answer that. And what did he do? He answered anyway.
Answered immediately.
So he hard-headed.
Yeah, he won't. I'm sure she's told him stop doing interviews, but he's thinking, I'm making $250, $300 a pop, maybe more at this point. Like, why would I? If he's done 8 interviews at 200, 200, that's what is that? 16. What is he making at this point?
God, 8 at 216, 17, 18. So about a couple $1,000. You know what I'm saying?
The 250. So let's say let's say he's making $250 times 8 interviews, $2,000. He may be making, if it's done more than 8. I paid it. Look, between you and I, we paid him 3 times.
You see what I'm saying?
Hey, you're right. It's at least, he's at least made $2,500, possibly $3,000.
No, he made more money than that.
You think?
Yeah, because he probably did more interviews that we wouldn't even know about, like on smaller channels. Could you imagine? You know what I'm saying? Like all the channels he done did, man, ain't no telling how much money that man made. And then you got to think, like, look, think about this, man. You did an interview on a channel that what you got like almost 1 million or over 1 million subscribers. How many?
No, I got 500,000.
Okay, you got 500,000 subscribers. Now I know in my mind, like basic logical common sense, this story could easily do 1 million, and there's no limit on how many views this might get, right?
Right.
You make a deal and say, I'm gonna give you 20% or $200, and you call back and say, give me the 200. What?
No, I was telling him 200 plus 20%. He said, give me the 200 now, keep the 20%.
Do you see what I'm saying?
What?
How dumb could you be? How desperate? Desperate is dumb. How desperate could you be? So could you imagine? Like he really think he did something smart when he told you that, or either he thought you were gonna. I don't know how he thought you was gonna not pay him. You know what I'm saying?
Right then. Listen, if I don't care what it is, I'll always if I say I'm paying, I'll pay.
Right? Why wouldn't you? I mean, even if you didn't want to, you at this point you wouldn't have a choice because you're not going to ruin your reputation over no $200 or no. Come on, man. So that just shows you how crazy he is. So we don't ever know how dumb he might get. So you have to question again now. Do you think that he would still text you even though he's been secretly indicted? And I'm not saying, for the record, I'm not saying he's been indicted. I don't know, but
I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, because he something is wrong with him, man. He's too desperate.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You know what's really messed up is that like I never pay anybody. I never pay.
Right.
Never. I only paid because I felt like I wanted to try and get him on the record. I was so in shock that he was admitting to have watched these tapes.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to get this guy on the record.
Well, see, that's me too. I don't pay people either. You know what I'm saying? Maybe in a rare case, but I did. I regretted it, but didn't make no money off of it. But anyway, I did make my money back off of him. But for him to just say that he don't want, his whole thing is he just want to get justice for his friend Tupac, and it's not about the money. Well, then give that book to that woman's kids and quit charging people to go on your platform. I mean, quit charging people to come on your platform and talk.
Yeah, if that's the case, you wouldn't have cared if the book was published, and you would have just given it to the government. You would have given the tapes to the government. That's what you would have done.
Yeah. So now Courtney's in trouble. If he keep it up, he gonna dig a much bigger hole for himself. And I'm pretty sure that his attorney has broken down to him that you gotta really stop talking, but he won't stop. So keep digging.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching the video. If you liked it, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Also, if you check the description box, I'm going to leave Corey's link to his podcast. It is Too Strong Podcast, and click the link. It bring you straight to his YouTube channel, and you can subscribe. And he's got a bunch of videos on Diddy. So I, once again, really appreciate you watching. Do me a favor. Also, please consider joining my Patreon. It really does help Colby and I make videos like this. It's $10 a month, and we have Patreon exclusive content on that platform. Once again, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. See ya.